Well, good morning, everyone. Nice to have you here. I just saw Executive Dampmeyer snuck in. Hello, hello.
That's what happens when you have free food.
Free food, right on. Well, good morning. My name is Tara Doyle Enneking. I'm the CEO of the Puyallup Sumner Chamber of Commerce, and I am thrilled to have all of you with our Government Affairs Council, we are now calling it, here live this week. And I think this may just end up being an annual tradition to, in December, have our meeting in person, where we invite our legislators and get a little insight as to what we can maybe expect in the upcoming session. This should also be a great opportunity for you to bring your issues forward to them. But then, of course, we want to be great allies as well and be very supportive of the efforts they're trying to put forward, predominantly with the business hat on. So that is the purpose of today. And we've assembled a wonderful panel in our Puyallup Sumner communities. We also have some great facilitators today. But first, I want to thank the Quorums once again for providing this fantastic space. They are obviously a great pillar, great family in this community, but maybe you do all know this, but they are quite the advocates as well. And so it's no surprise anytime we have something where we get in front of our rulemakers and legislators that they're going to be right there being supportive of our community, the business, and just making Puyallup and Sumner a great place to live, work, play, all of that. So I'd like to bring Luke Quorum up, who is also one of our board directors. Thrilled to have you both, Bill Quorum and Luke Quorum.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. When I look outside, it kind of gives me flashbacks to what it was like before with all your guys parked out here. So it's nice to see all these cars filling up this lot. So, but thanks, Tara. Thanks for letting us be a part of this, hosting this. We love doing stuff like this. And like you said, to advocate for business. So happy holidays and thank you, everyone.
When I get to see the photographer that is. All right, and again, a warm welcome. We've got a lot of other electeds in the room here. I'm just going to kind of work my eyes around. I see Councilmember Dave Morrell. Thank you for being here. You have a mask on, I might not recognize you, but I do see Councilmember Patrick Reed. And your new mayor of Sumner, Kathy Hayden. Who else do I see back there? Am I missing? And then, of course, the executive, Bruce Dampmeyer, local Puyallup. Thank you all for being here. Really appreciate it. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on a beautiful, classy, smart, intelligent, wonderful woman who is running this year our South Sound Chamber of Commerce Legislative Coalition. So as a smaller community, smaller chamber, we have joined with 8 other chambers to have a coalition and have a lobbyist. Regionally, we share the same concerns. And so we're very grateful that our members here get the benefit of being able to join forces with these other chambers. And this year, Ms. Carmen Goers is at the helm, and we have also put together our legislative issues, which she is going to share with you today and with you today. So Ms. Carmen Goers.
Thank you and good morning. So I hail from the north end of South King County. I am Carmen Goers. I am the current 2022 chair of the South Sound Chambers of Commerce Legislative Coalition, and we are comprised of chambers of commerce from South King, North, and East Pierce counties. Our goal is to bring together business-related policies and procedures, that's my banking talk there, policies that encourage and support the business community. So I just wanted to kind of briefly indicate that, while we are still weathering through the pandemic and weathering through the recovery, our goal as a coalition is to amplify your business voices, amplify each of our chambers, and amplify each of the issues that are arising before us. This Thursday, December the 9th, we are having a regional coalition legislative breakfast. It's virtual. There's no cost to attend. The event will be on the Puyallup Sumner website for registration. And this is where we're talking about our priorities and our issues. Every year we come together, each chamber comes together and brings their top priorities. We still believe that transportation and investments in our infrastructure are a high priority, as well as investments in our human capital. And this coming year, we're really focused on police reform, safety in our communities. We're really focused on notifying or letting our legislators know that economic recovery will not happen with increased fees, taxes, or burdens to our businesses. We need relief. We need policies that help and encourage infrastructure investments, job creation, and reducing the cost of doing business, not just to business owners, but also to our citizens, because some of us are barely getting by and keeping ends together. And so we would hope that you would join us in that and be supportive. Again, our top priorities this coming session are going to be on public safety. They're going to be on police reform and public safety, excuse me, reducing our tax burden, just addressing the long-term care issues, as well as maintaining our infrastructure, our transportation infrastructure investments and growth. You guys have a great morning, and thank you for allowing me to speak today.
Excellent. So kind of just, that was a quick summary of what we're focused on, but I'd like to turn it to our panel today to just give maybe some added commentary of the kinds of things you're thinking about with the legislative session, sort of with that as the umbrella. I want to mention that we can all see, hello, Representative Robertson. I love what Zoom and COVID has allowed us to do here. Grateful to have Senator Phil Fortunato here today. Councilmember Zeiger. Senator Gildon. House Representative Kelly Chambers. And Representative Jacobson said it's okay, I can tell you she's suffering a little bit of anesthesia hangover, so she was not able to make it this morning. But this is our panel, so this is an opportunity to kind of just, I guess, respond a little bit to what Carmen said, and then I'm going to be bringing Sean Bunny up afterwards to kind of facilitate more direct questions from the audience, and also, kind of dive into more of what are sort of some of your passion projects, bills, initiatives that we should know about and get behind. So. First, I guess we'll just start with Senator Phil Fortunato and any added commentary on what Carmen presented.
Thank you. 22 years ago, I was a state rep in the 47th district, and I said, people are going to be buying more fuel-efficient cars. People are going to buy more electric cars. The gas tax revenue is going to flatten out, but the cost of construction and right-of-way purchase is going to go up with inflation. The budget was $26 billion, and the sales tax from the sale of motor vehicles, which I suggest when you buy a car, you take that state sales tax that they currently pay and you stick that into the gas tax account. So in 1999, it was $26 billion state budget, $512 million sales tax. Now it's almost $60 billion with $2.4 billion in sales tax. The chairman of the Democratic chairman of transportation let me do a presentation on my bill. And, the Democrats are always saying, how are you going to pay for it? So you can't, for example, have a construction project without a tax. You'll notice that, they'll say, for a nickel increase in gas tax, we'll give you these projects. For an 11.9 increase in gas tax, we'll give you these projects. So it's project list, tax package. So the latest project, or the latest tax package, Forward Washington, or whatever they're going to call it, has the House side has 50 new taxes. The Senate side has 33 new taxes. So he let me do a presentation on taking the sales tax, existing sales tax from the sale of motor vehicles, stick it in the gas tax account. And then I had a slide that said, how are you going to pay for it? And the next slide was, we're going to double the tax on marijuana. So the next slide said, what is the connection between marijuana sales and roads? And the last slide showed two little guys in a handbasket going down to hell saying, where are we going in this handbasket? And the slide said, if you're going to go to hell in a handbasket, you might as well go on nicely paved roads. Right? And my comms people put that to highway to hell. So anyway, that's my passion, to try to get that through, either by legislatively or by an alternate method. The other thing that may be of interest to to Executive Dan Meyer and other people in Pierce County as well, is I had the bill to form a new county. And basically the bill did not actually form a new county. What it did was it's put in place the legislative procedure to follow to form a new county. And of course, the object is to eliminate Seattle. So Seattle could be King County and we'll be something else. Now, what that would do is on the Puget Sound Regional Council, that would have Snohomish County, which is Everett and suburban and rural. And then you would have a new county, and we'll just say Cascade, which would be Bellevue, Rent of Bellevue, Issaquah, suburban and rural. And then you would have Pierce County, where you would have Tacoma and suburban and rural. So you would have a similar county makeup with those same issues. And Seattle would actually be the smallest of the new four counties. So somebody said, well, how are you going to exclude Seattle? And my response was, we're going to build a wall. So anyway, those are some of the issues. And then if anybody wants to talk about homelessness, when Hans was with us, we had a series of homeless bills and things like that. So we could talk about that as well. So thank you.
Awesome.
Well, good morning. Good to see some familiar faces here, and I want to briefly mention some things going on at the county. And we've got Bruce Danmeyer and Dave Morrell who can correct anything I say wrong or supplement it if needed. So just briefly. So and then I'll get into a couple of legislative items as well. I no longer sit in the legislature, so I can't say what's going to happen during the legislative session, but I can say some things that I, as a county council member, want to happen. So at the county, we are in the middle, actually toward the end of the county council redistricting process that is being done by an appointed redistricting committee, and would invite any of you who are so inclined to weigh in and comment on that process. And your time is very limited to do so. But you can go to the county website and find the redistricting page and submit a comment through there. And the draft final plan, as it is called, proposes to split up the current combination of Puyallup and Sumner, which would be of interest to this group because currently Puyallup and Sumner are in my district, and the proposal would put Puyallup into my district and Sumner into Dave Morrell's district. And so there are probably pros and cons to either scenario, the current scenario or the proposed scenario, but you are welcome to weigh in and comment on that as final decisions are made. I expect that amendments are going to be proposed tonight when the redistricting committee gets back together. The other thing I wanted to mention is that this morning, the county council's Human Services Committee is going to receive a report from our Human Services Department. And that is the report on the county's comprehensive plan on ending homelessness. And this is a really important effort that has been underway this year, led by our county executive, Bruce Danmeyer, and his team in the Human Services Department. And we're going to do some things very differently in Pierce County on homelessness than we're seeing, say, in King County. And one of the biggest things that we're going to see happening, I believe, is modeled after the very successful Community First Village in Austin, Texas, where and both Councilmember Morrell and Executive Danmeyer have visited there. Other community leaders have gone down to see what they're doing there. It's a very large tiny home and RV community where there's an emphasis on employment, accountability, having community, because there's a recognition that at the root of homelessness is a profound, catastrophic loss of family and of community, and that there has to be a restoration of that. And so that's really the focus. It's not just putting a roof over somebody's head. It's having the full relational experience that human beings need. And it has medical services on site, behavioral health services on site, job opportunities on site. Again, very successful down there. It's an approach that I think a lot of people, including in the business community, can get on board with here. And we in the county council made a commitment of $22.3 million in our budget that we passed a couple of weeks ago. And so would invite anybody who is interested in that to talk about that and find out how you can get involved in that. When it comes to our legislative agenda, I was very encouraged to hear that the South Sound Chambers of Commerce are emphasizing reforms to the police reform that occurred last year, because those police reforms were not well done. They did not involve stakeholder consensus like the legislative process is designed to do. And to me, even though I was out of the legislature by that point in time, that is the worst legislative process I have ever seen in terms of getting, just a breakdown of the collaborative legislative process, and the consequences are evident. Car theft in Pierce County more than doubled between October of 2020 and October of 2021, and businesses are seeing this impact. Neighborhoods are seeing this impact. Families are seeing it, and I think any organization in the state, local governments, business organizations, chambers, should be emphasizing the importance of going in to fix those police reforms, because I think that is something that is so high on the public's mind right now as far as maintaining public safety in our state. And that doesn't mean scrapping the entire reforms that were made this last legislative session, because there were some important things that were accomplished through those reforms. It means making sure that our law enforcement can do the job that they need to do. Another thing I'll mention that's on our county's legislative agenda is the completion of Canyon Road, the Canyon Road Regional Connection Project. It's critical that as discussions happen about a transportation package, that project is front and center. $50 million is the county's request from the state, and that project is critical for jobs, whether in Frederickson or on the Tide Flats. It'll be a key connector between those two parts of the Port of Tacoma. It will help people get out of Fife or into Fife. It will replace the Milroy Bridge. It will include a trail connection as part of the bridge that replaces that Milroy Bridge. There will be environmental benefits. It's something that we've got to get done here in Pierce County, scheduled to be done in 2028, but we need to raise the money, and we're counting on the state to help out with that project. So we can talk more about that if you're interested, but thank you very much.
All right, well, good morning, everybody, and thank you so much for coming. It's just incredible to see everybody in person, eyeball to eyeball once again. So I'm Chris Gildon, and I serve in the state Senate for the 25th Legislative District, which is, for now, Puyallup, South Hill, Parkland, Midland, and Fife. But it's looking like after redistricting is all set, we're going to lose Fife out of our district. So some changes there. So I'm just going to take a quick little aside, if I may, because I'm a 23-year Army veteran with 5 deployments overseas, and just want to recognize that today is the 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor. And so we have some interesting things about Pearl Harbor with the local community. And for those of y'all that don't know, Councilman Zeiger actually wrote a book outlining some of the history. And if you would just allow 1 second to be brief, I would like to invite him to tell a story about a local Puyallup boy and his involvement in Pearl Harbor. You okay with that?
I love it.
The story is of Leonard Humiston, and he grew up in what was then called the Puyallup Heights neighborhood, which is around South Hill Mall, and joined the Army Air Corps prior to World War II. He was a 1935 Puyallup High School graduate, and was assigned on a mission. He was a lieutenant in December of 1941. Was assigned on a mission to the Philippines. And they flew out of a base in California in a formation, and en route to the Philippines, they had to stop and refuel at Hickam Air Base in Hawaii. This was December 6th of 1941 that they left California. And as they were coming into Hawaii, saw a formation of planes coming their way, and they thought this is some kind of a greeting from the Navy, stationed at Pearl Harbor or something like that. As these planes got closer, they realized these were Japanese planes coming straight toward them, and this was, this changes everything. They ended up being pursued at some for some time by Japanese planes. And in the course of time, Lieutenant Humiston and his crew ended up crash landing at Bellows Airfield on the other side of Oahu. And he got out to safety, ended up going on to be a highly decorated Air Corps veteran of the war, went on to combat service in New Guinea. But what he had endured there in the skies over Pearl Harbor, Hickam Air Base, and Bellows Field on December 7th, 1941, was the first American air combat in World War II. And Puyallup hometown boy.
Wow.
Incredible, just absolutely incredible. So, all right, I'm going to jump right into it, and I'm going to be brief, and we'll see brilliant. I don't know. That'll be up for judge, but and then I'll be gone. But so legislative session is going to start on January 10th. So we are less than 30 days from the beginning of the legislative session. As a matter of fact, just yesterday was the first day that legislators could pre-file bills. So we're going to start seeing what's going to be on the legislative agenda very soon as bills are dropped into the hopper. What is session going to look like? I get asked that quite often. We don't really know yet. It's going to be a little different in the House than it is in the Senate, most likely. The current rules for the Senate, which I'll speak to, are that we will be allowed to be in our offices in Olympia, and we will be allowed to have visitors in our offices. So that's good news. That's during committee time. And then whenever we're on the floor, all the senators are supposed to be on the floor every day that we are doing debate. And we will be allowed to have up to 12 persons in the public viewing gallery on each side. I don't know how many people are going to be allowed in the rotunda in general, because there's more tenants in the Capitol building than just the Senate. There's the House and the governor. So they'll have to figure that out. So more to follow on that, but I will make myself available as much as I am able to. I can guarantee you that, because I think it's important that we as legislators, as policymakers, that we hear from people and not just on the TV screen. Those in-person meetings are just so crucial to the legislative process. So what's on the agenda this year? I think we're going to see some progress in the police reform area. Specifically, I think we're going to look at the moving from probable cause to the reasonable suspicion probable cause. We're going to see some legislation allowing law enforcement to once again use those less than lethal tools that were taken away from them inadvertently, I think. And we're going to see some legislation that's going to allow, once again, law enforcement to pursue suspected criminals, right? So, and I think most importantly is we're going to fix that barrier that has not allowed law enforcement to be that link with a person who's experiencing, mental illness and a mental health professional. And that's been really lacking since those police reform bills were implemented. I think we're going to see some work on that long-term care tax bill, the payroll tax that's starting up really soon. It's going to be interesting because we all signed on to a letter back in September asking the governor to delay implementation of this because of all of the issues that we've been speaking about. Just a few days ago, the 7 members of the Democrat Senate leadership team sent a joint letter to the governor asking him also to delay the implementation of that particular tax. So that's good news that we're making some progress. I think the rub may be in the House because the sponsor of that bill in 2019, the person who sponsored that particular bill is now the Speaker of the House. And so if they're going to allow changes to their bill, I guess we'll see. So, but I'm hopeful we can make some of those changes. Emergency powers, we're now over 650 days of emergency rule. And I think that there's a real appetite to exert, the legislative checks and balances. So I'm hopeful that we'll make some progress in that as well. Senator Fortunato mentioned gas tax relief, and I think you'll probably expound on some of these topics. So I'll just highlight them. But yeah, we are seeing some movement forward to wean us off of reliance on the gas tax for funding transportation infrastructure and shifting some of those dollars from the operating budget over to the transportation budget to fund transportation projects. And just so you know, we're expected, according to budget estimates, we're expected to have about $10 billion more this session than we thought we were going to have. So this should really be a budget writer's dream, right? They should have all the money that they need to do pretty much everything that we need them to do. I'll hit on one other item and then I'll pass it off to Representative Chambers, and I'm sure she can expound on some of these. But one of the things that not a lot of folks are talking about that I think is going to be a push, because I serve on the housing committee, so I've got to keep my eye on these things, is California and Oregon just recently passed legislation that completely eliminates single-family zoning in the state. It's on the docket. I think Tacoma is going to vote on it this upcoming week, maybe today. But so just, you know, for your interest, what it would do is any place that is currently allowed single-family zoning is they would want to increase that density up to a duplex, a triplex, a fourplex. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but that has a big impact on our state. That's a huge change to the way that we do business. So that's something that's certainly on my radar, and I'll be watching. But we'll hit these in a little bit more in detail as we go. But I want to pass it off to Representative Chambers.
Great.
Good morning. This seems so serious. This is not my jam to be this serious this early in the morning. Okay, so obviously a lot of highlights already been given. What we're going to look at this legislative session, like Senator Gildan mentioned, is that the House and the Senate have a different set of rules by which they operate. So we're still trying to figure out if we're actually going to be in person and how that's going to look. Right now, the proposal in the House is that they're only going to allow vaccinated members to be on the floor of the House. And even then, it will not be a full House, but cohorts of maybe 10 or so members at a time. So just to put that in perspective, the literal floor of the House is probably 3 times the size of the room that we're in right now, 2 times the size. And they're proposing only allowing 10 members per caucus on the floor at a time. Allowing COVID-free people into the building, but only vaccinated members onto the floor. So these are some of the proposals that we're looking at and dealing with right now. So committee hearings are going to continue to be virtual, no public in-person committee meetings. And that's kind of concerning, because I think that public input, having people in person, is a really important ingredient in that pie that's made down there in the legislature. And while certainly we can go back to last legislative session and say how great it was that we had so many more people participate in the process by testifying remotely and making that an option for people, but eliminating that in-person contact is I think kind of troublesome, and that's how it looks like we're going to go with this next session and the public hearing process. So that's kind of some of the logistics that we're looking at. But I'll just echo what Senator Gildan said, is I'll continue to make myself available in person to people and have those in-person meetings. Budget-wise, we've got 3 budgets. And, I think we kind of get in the kind of rut of being sort of Washington centric here, but just to give you a little bit broader perspective, since the slump in 2008, Washington has had the 2nd highest revenue growth pre-Great Recession in the country. We're looking at a 40% revenue growth in Washington as compared to an average of 18% nationwide. So when we're looking at budgets and all the revenue coming into the state, Washington's in a unique position that we've had a lot of growth here. And so then it begs the question, why 50 new tax increases? Is there really a need for that?
So, our caucus is really trying to take a different approach this year and put forth some budget proposals that are different than what you're going to see from the other side. What we routinely see is, hey, we need new taxes to justify all this new spending and all these programs. And we're saying, how can we switch that around and capitalize on that revenue growth that we've had without having to continue to raise taxes at the pump every time that we need to see a major project completed for transportation. And as Senator Fortunato mentioned, on the transportation side of things, sales tax revenue from vehicles is going into the general fund, not into the transportation fund. There is a major issue with, it's hard to say with my retainers, the fish passage barrier. Sorry. I'm always slurring the words. So the state is under an injunction to revise some of these fish passage barriers. And currently that injunction in the financial responsibility is coming out of the transportation budget. But can we flip that around and move that to the general fund and allow those vehicle related revenues coming into the transportation budget then go to fund more of the transportation related projects? And so our caucus is putting forth a proposal that we switch that revenue from vehicle sales to the transportation budget and move that fish passage barrier responsibility out of the transportation budget. Our caucus, like as mentioned, will continue to focus on public safety, fixing some of those police reform bills that were passed this year, life affordability, and that includes the Long-Term Care Trust Act. That bill, again, something that was passed that I think most people didn't understand what was going on until it was already passed. And I think a lot of people didn't know what was going on until end of summer, maybe early fall this year, when all the long-term care insurance providers had already pulled out of the state of Washington and could no longer even get a policy. But that particular issue is being attacked on a number of fronts. One, there'll be new proposals introduced this year to tweak that. As was mentioned, delaying implementation of it. There's currently an initiative filed with the Secretary of State's office. They need to have those signatures by December 23rd this month and that initiative would repeal the bill that was passed and make participation optional. Then there's also been a lawsuit filed on that. And so it's going to be addressed in the courts. So it's being attacked on many different fronts, but clearly this is something that, is affecting a lot of people's pocketbooks that they weren't aware of until it was too late, literally. So I guess, are we going to take questions or?
I'm going to go to Robertson.
Yeah. Well, I'll introduce Representative Robertson because I'm going to put him on the spot that it was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, but.
Just give him a little peek at the room.
Well, thank you, Kelly, for outing me on my 39th birthday.
Margaritas are what time?
No, thank you so much. First, I want to take a moment and thank the Chamber for putting together this opportunity for the business community and the legislative group to kind of interface. There's no doubt that we've been a little bit disconnected by virtue of the pandemic and some of the rules that they put in place for us. But and I also want to thank the Chamber for providing the opportunity to join virtually. I know that's not easy to set up and pull off, but I do appreciate it. I did take a long planned trip out of town for my birthday, and so I'm enjoying a little bit of heat and warmth. So with that, I'd also like to thank the Quorum family for putting together the venue there, and the opportunity to come together is so important. And I think if any of the people there have nice cars, they're always looking for pre-owned warranty trade-in value, so you can just cruise through there and see what they can do for you on the way out. So anyhow, as far as priorities, I will just say what they said. But two really important ones for me are the public safety issues. They talk about police reform, and I will tell you that having had a career in law enforcement and had a bit of time mid-career when I was a captain with the Washington State Patrol, serving as the commander of the Office of Professional Standards, which oversaw the Internal Affairs Unit, the Evidence Control Unit, and the Audit Unit. I'm not discounting accountability for our public servants who have such great power. And I think that's important. But what we saw in Olympia last year was an overreach. It was a lack of collaboration. It was a emotional response to things that occurred elsewhere. And we need to get away from the emotions. We need to get back in person. We need to sit down face to face. Like Kelly had said, we need to have those meetings together to perfect legislation and do what's best for our citizens and our communities, because those bills have clearly failed us. Puyallup was on day one was the poster child for how awful those so-called police reform bills were done. So that's really unfortunate. I know there are a couple bills that were actually pre-filed today that will correct some of that. I'm hopeful that they will get a hearing and we can come to a reasonable conclusion as to how to move forward, giving law enforcement the ability to keep our communities safe. Because as we've seen in the news lately, our communities are not safe. There's some larger issues. We've got the smash and grabs. We've got the point where the criminals, they're not stupid. They know they can just drive off, and law enforcement's hands are tied because of what occurred beginning January 1 of this year, or I'm sorry, July 1 of this year. So that's important. And as Kelly pointed out, we have a proposal in the House to really reprioritize how we fund transportation in the state of Washington. This has been, as was pointed out by Senator Fortunato, a long time coming. We knew it was here. The knee-jerk reaction in Olympia, of course, is just continue to raise taxes, raise taxes, raise taxes. We're not looking at, or they are not looking at existing revenues and how we can reprioritize and reappropriate. And the real transportation plan, which was proposed last month by the House Republican Transportation Committee, is a solution, and I hope it gets the airtime that it deserves in January in Olympia and not get brushed off and have the majority revert to their traditional method of just raising the gas tax to fix a set list of important safety projects on our state's highways. So with that, I will pass it back to the moderators, and I thank you again for the opportunity to be here.
Thank you, Robertson, Representative Robertson. I'm going to say hi over here now that I know where the camera is. Fantastic. All right, so we've got about 25 minutes to kind of open it up to more of the dialogue between you and our representatives here. And I would like to bring a facilitator up, a friend to this community, a former council member himself, definitely someone who I turn to glean insight of our community because he has such a great pulse on the community. So Mr. Sean Bunny.
Thank you, Tara, and thank you everyone for coming out. It is so nice to get to meet in person again, and let's hope we can continue to do this and put all the COVID behind us. I'm not going to spend much time just chatting up. I think we have 25 minutes. If we manage our time well, we'll get a lot out of this. So for legislators, you get 1 point if you can answer in a minute. You get 2 points if you can answer in 30 seconds. Let's do it quickly. And you guys just put a hand up. I'll go ahead and queue up the first question and we'll go from there.
Perfect.
So your top couple of, and not everyone needs to answer everything. I know we heard some of the answers before. So in the interest of time, if you got a good one, pop it in there. If you're trying to make something up on the fly, there'll be another good one coming along in a minute. So transportation, your top 1 or 2 transportation projects and I guess selfishly, I hope there's one that I really hope to see on your list. I don't know. And then second, if you look at the county's transportation kind of 20-year forecast for the South Hill to McCord and south of 512, it freezes up in 20 years. I mean, we have a serious east-west transportation problem there. And I'm just curious if any of you have any thoughts on how to resolve that. Who's first?
I could jump in on that, and if at all possible, I want to commend Representative Chambers on her effort. She not only focused on the Meridian issue, which needs to be restudied now with all the growth, but she also worked with the chairman of the committee for the East-West proposal. There is study money out there that Representative Chambers was able to secure in the budget, which is going to look from all the way from Highway 161 west to I-5. And that is, of course, an important corridor, hopefully to get folks going east and west before they get up on Meridian, before they get on Canyon, before they get on number 7, and before they get on 512 into the freight corridor. So I'm hopeful that we can add on to that study and take it all the way down to Highway 162 and connecting with the Tahala community. And I think that is a really important corridor to study and be there for us in the future. And I know I've talked with Council Member Zeiger because obviously there's connectivity with a lot of county roads through there. And I hope that the state and the county can really come together after that study's completed and find real solutions for our South Pierce County communities and the commuters that will hopefully be not teleworking for the rest of their lives, but back in, commuting and engaging the transportation system.
Oh, yeah. What Representative Robertson was referring to is some money that I was able to get into the transportation budget, just to have a broader look at the region. It seems to me sort of weird how they would look at projects and say, oh, well, we're only going to look at Meridian, or this is a county road, we're only going to study this one particular road. But it's like, we have to have a broader picture of this corridor in this region and involve multiple agencies from Sound Transit to Pierce County to the state, and have a broader look at that so we can make longer term decisions going forward. So that's what that study is about.
Anybody else want a piece of this one? Senator?
So I'm not saying there's a current initiative that will then be refiled in January, but if people were able to go to nonewtaxesforroads.org, you might see a project list, and all the projects that everybody's discussing are on that list. So when you write a bill, for example, you can't spend money and raise money in the same bill. Those are two different things. But you can, in the intent section of the bill, it is the intent of this bill to do this, say whatever the heck you want. Coincidentally, that intent section lists all of the projects. So finishing one, so, here's part of the problem, and Kelly pointed it out. Again, 20-something years ago, I ran a bill that said the Congestion Relief Act. You have to look at the total corridor. What happens is, oh, you're in the 25th district. Here's your project in the 25th district. Oh, you're in the 31st. You get this project, but nobody does the project in between. So the following year, 2, 3, 4 years later, then you do the project in between. By that time, everything's obsolete. So an example is 509 to the new 167, complete that. All you're going to do is lengthen the parking lot on 167 until you widen Route 18 through Auburn, you finish Route 18 at the other end, and you do the interchange at I-90 to make it going from the port to eastern Washington to facilitate freight and exports. So you need to do that entire thing. Now, if you were able to do that, it would use up a substantial portion of the transportation money. If you put the sales tax from sale of motor vehicles, it gives you $30 billion over 20 years. It gives you 58-point-something billion dollars in economic stimulus. So, I mean, it seems like a logical thing to do. So either either it's true that it gives you that much money in economic stimulus, or they lied to us when they sold the 11.9 cent gas tax. So anyway, it's important to do the entire quarter.
Thank you, Phil. And I do think it's important for the chamber to know that Senator Fortunato and Eric Robertson are our two in East Pierce County that sit on our transportation committee and need to, and we are very blessed with having good leadership in East Pierce County to help us get some of our transportation issues resolved. So moving on, does someone have one they want to throw in, or should I keep working? Yes, ma'am.
What do you think the impact will be of Senator Hobbs' replacement?
Well, actually, there's two people vying for that. One is Senator Leas, and if Senator Leas has his way, everybody will be driving an electric car by 2030, mandated. So more of a, what I call the environmental tilt. The other one is Rebecca Saldana, who's the current vice chairman, again, who's in downtown Seattle and downtown Seattle centric. At which both of them tend to be transit oriented as opposed to road oriented. So as you know, the Growth Management Act's purpose is to jam as many people as possible into as small an area as possible, make everybody's life miserable so they'll take the bus. And that's their concept, is higher density, higher density, higher density, push people along transit lines. They don't like cars. And just as a total aside, nobody's talking about the lithium and cobalt and rare earth materials that you need to make batteries. Everybody's saying, oh, we're running out of fossil fuels, but we had a delegation from the Congo just last week, and we're running out of lithium and cobalt to make batteries. So anyway, that's just a total aside.
Thank you, Phil. What's that? Question back here? Kurt.
Real quick. Last year, there was a lot of carbon bills that were trying to get put through the legislation, and a number of them didn't pass. One of them was, as an example, not being able to use natural gas to construct those bills did not pass, or at least a number of them did not pass. What we have seen, I'm also in the construction industry, what we've seen here lately, and this goes to our Washington State Building Code Council, and an example of where the governor's office are appointing people to boards and commissions with like-minded people that are pushing agendas that are contrary to what are the bills not passing in the House or the Senate. And so I'm wondering how we bring some reasonableness to bills that are being put forth, not passed, yet we are appointing people, in a specific example to the building trades or to the State Building Code Council, where two representatives were appointed to that commission on suspect means of getting them onto the board, and also the board president of the agency of Washington. We filed a lawsuit against the governor's office on the selection of two of those appointed members. We'll get into that detail, but it seems like we're not passing bills, but we're putting people in places to influence what might be happening behind the scenes. And I don't get comments on that.
I'll speak real briefly at a high level. So on the first part, if there is a particular bill or topic that is of interest to you, you can go online and you can comment, or you can sign up to testify in favor of or against that bill. And the website is leg.wa.gov. And if you need more information on how to do that, I'd be glad to let you know. But a little personal plug, you may not know what bills are coming up. So make sure you sign up for our legislative updates so that you can stay aware of what's going on. Boards and commissions. There are a number of boards and commissions that, with vacant seats at the state level, at the county level, and at the city level. And if you would like information on what those particular boards and commissions are, shoot me an email and I will send you the link to it, to all of them. I know Executive Dammeyer would appreciate increased participation in a lot of these particular boards and commissions. All right. We're just going.
All right.
I'm still new and scratch my head when I see some of this stuff happen down there. And it's just like, really, this just doesn't make any sense to me. But what I see is a bill will be passed. So, you know, we're going to put together a task force, and it's going to consist of X amount of members, 10, 20 members. And the way those are made up just doesn't create a situation where you get very much diversity of opinion. You know, I'm on a task force right now with 17 members. And there are 15 members that repeatedly vote together as one block. There's no alternative ideas brought to the table. And I don't think that serves the public interest. I think when we have some disagreement or tension or, you know, different perspectives that we're bringing to the table, that's how we're able to move things forward. You know, I'm looking at the chamber members here. Okay, you sell cars, you sell coffee, you do titles. Okay, if we're going to work on a project, we're each going to bring a different perspective to the table. And what I see over and over again in these bills that are passed and these task forces that are created, it's everyone's cut from the same cloth, and there's not a lot of diversity of opinion that's going on there. So when there are opportunities to serve on a commission and to fill some of those spots, of course, we want to recommend people that can bring something different to the table. And even some of these things that can be really kind of dry issues, let's say redistricting and staring at maps, who really is an expert in that in your daily life. But I think, you know, it's important to for you all that are here, obviously you have an expertise, but, you know, making yourself available to that public process so that we can plug you into those areas where there is an opportunity to serve, and to just temper some of that kind of group think and that's going on there.
Great. So just checking in, we're down to 10 minutes. We will work on our efficiencies, 30-second speed round if we can do that. Yes, sir, go ahead.
And this is focus, Mr. Zeiger and or Dan Meyer, in this new homeless package that you're looking at, patterned after the one in Austin, is there any aspect of the unit in Austin that moves that community towards being self-sustaining?
I will defer to either Executive Dan Meyer or Councilmember Ralph, because they've actually visited there.
So absolutely. First of all, the one, it's a transformational and it's a restorative model. It's unlike anything we've seen around here, which is pretty much enabling, you know, unacceptable behavior and treatment. It is absolutely dignity driven. It brings the community into the involvement. And down there, currently there's no government money involved. It is all supported by the community and largely by the philanthropic community. It is an amazing place where you see volunteers from the community coming in to work in the village, and they actually pay money to volunteer. And they do that because the neighbors, the people who live in the community, it's all about dignity. It's all about, they pay rent. It's all about restoring their dignity. And they host community groups that come in, so that what the community group, when they volunteer to pay, it goes to the neighbor. It's all about giving them dignity. It's a large master plan community. They're about to do their 4th phase of it. It is the most successful program towards dealing with the chronically homeless that we've seen.
Thank you, Chris.
It is not a free ride. They pay a rent. So it's very unique. It does have a profit center. It does have an on-site Airbnb that is rent units. A lot of them volunteer while they're there. But there are many elements that just make sense. Just a basic business model. And the individuals, the neighbors that are there that I had are really endorse this. They're for the first time part of the community. They interact. They have individuals like you that live in the neighborhood that oversee the neighbors. And so it's a very engaging, very empowering and we're talking chronic homeless. These
Right.
are people that have been on the, on the streets for 10, 20 years. The average age that they take in is 55 years old.
Thank you. And I just want to put one editorial comment. We are very blessed with good leadership and Executive Danmeyer and the council members and actually trying to get in front of the homeless issue. Not a difficult one to grapple. Bruce came in on day one and said this needs to get done with mental health and enormous amount of leadership there. So still looking for the 30-second answer. Sean Egan, I know you got a question that won't be answered in 30 seconds, but go ahead.
Sean Egan, Reporters Coma, a quick comment and then a question. On the comment side, I just want to thank the state delegation for your advocacy for our local transportation projects. I-5 Crummer Road interchange, we have got to get that done. Thank you for defending 167 and your signing on to the letter earlier this year to the governor opposing the pause that you put in place. So thank you. My question is this. The one thing that is affecting virtually everyone in this room and all of our local businesses is the bottlenecks in the supply chain right now. The Senate has paid attention to this issue. The Senate Republican Caucus had a dialogue within caucus on this. There was a Senate committee work session on this. My question for Representative Robertson and Chambers, what are you hearing on the House side? Is there conversations at all about addressing the supply chain?
And I'm not sure Representative Robertson could quite hear all of that, so maybe.
They're talking about supply.
I heard everything but the last part. What
Right,
was
so the 30-second clock is ticking. So Kelly, go.
Oh, gosh, so not a lot on the House side, since I'm actually no longer on the Transportation Committee in the House. I did recently attend a conference in Tampa and nationally see stuff being done, and other states like Florida, Georgia, opening up their ports and doing some stuff to open up the bottleneck down there. So I can't say more at this time.
We have a winner. Anybody else want in on the supply chain question?
It's going to take time. That's the answer.
Next question from the audience. Mr. Danmeyer.
Just really quick, I appreciate the focus on public safety. The laws that were passed made our communities less safe, so we got to, in the name of reform, good intent, poor execution. There's been no discussion that I've heard about resolving the Blake decision, which was a Supreme Court ruling which basically legalized drugs in our community. I recently was on a ride-along, a graveyard ride-along. 80% to 90% of the calls were responding with drug or substance abuse related. That is clearly fueling our property crime issue epidemic throughout the community. Is there any appetite in the legislature for kind of correcting the Blake decision?
I think there are five bills being proposed in the House addressing the Blake decision. So providing behavioral health responses, training to law enforcement personnel, addressing juveniles consuming controlled substances. So there's a number of things being proposed there.
And in the Senate, I think that the majority party may be going the opposite way. Is they have more of an appetite to decriminalize drug possession in the name of equitable distribution of justice, or whatever you want to call it these days. But I think the Senate majority party is actually moving in the opposite direction of the reforms that I would embrace.
Very quickly, the majority party has reduced crime by making crime legal. And for those of you who don't know what the Blake decision is, Blake's is some girl that had drugs in her pocket. She gets arrested. It says, I borrowed these jeans from somebody. I didn't know that the drugs were in my pocket. And the end result of the Supreme Court ruling in favor of her is the release of how many? 8,000 drug-related criminals. And that's why they're not being arrested. So.
And just a quick offer, if you want to do a ride along with a Pierce County deputy between now and the beginning of session, we'll make it happen.
I actually just paid money. I bought that at an auction.
We like that even better, but we can do it for free too.
So getting close to the end, I'll just put one more out here. I don't think it would be a chamber discussion if we did not talk about the labor shortage. and getting people trained and in our workforce more crucial now than ever. Can anybody give us 30 seconds or less on career and technical training?
Just from a county perspective, I would say that there are obviously lots of different aspects to the labor shortage issue, but this is nowhere more long-term and more kind of serious as an ongoing problem than in the healthcare professions. And so we've made some significant investments in our county budget that passed a couple of weeks ago in healthcare workforce development. One is a partnership between PLU and WSU, and that will build out additional healthcare training capacity on the PLU campus. The other one will be basically an initial investment in a partnership between CMAR, Multicare, Pacific Northwest University, and there's one other partner in that group. So anyway, we're making some significant county investments.
Wow, that's impressive. Anybody else want a piece of this one?
I can jump in real quick. The building industry of Washington are working with the trades folks, with the K-12 schools, where a program similar kind of what they do at aviation high school, but aviation's a single institution, a single campus. But in the building industry, they want to spread it out throughout the state of Washington and have a program that can be implemented at the high school level, utilizing some of the STEM curriculum and then implementing it with actual hands-on construction work, to where a high schooler in their junior and senior year will participate in the plan, and they come out with a certificate at the conclusion of graduation, similar to what they do with Running Start when you have an AA when you get out of high school. This would have a certification program in the building industries. And so there's some exciting stuff out there for our young people. And hopefully if we get to a position where we quit paying people to sit on the sofa and game, and get them focused on their futures and out actually working, we'll be able to implement some of these programs and decrease some of the other spending that isn't really investing in the future of our young people.
Thank you, Eric. We're getting really good at the 30-second answer. Senator, show us how to do it.
So anyway, we know that the cause of this has been that supplemental unemployment benefit that made it more economical for people to stay home and get unemployment and that supplemental benefit, which now, in order to hire somebody, the wages have to be increased in order to hire people to make it more economically feasible, which then increases inflation, et cetera. So it's hopefully with the stopping of that extra unemployment for COVID stuff, we're going to see more people entering the workforce because they're going to be running out of money and need a job. So,
thank you.
Can I make just a quick comment?
Yes, please.
I'm just wondering how many in the room are aware that in the Puyallup School District, there is a CTE program, which is career and technical education to focus people into the workforce. If not, I would suggest you take a look at it and see if there's a way you can participate.
There's a lot of stuff going on with workforce development and career training. The good news is there's more jobs out there than there are people to fill the jobs. Good employment stability there. But yesterday I was up in Seattle at Amazon at their skills training center, and Amazon has just come out with some open source curriculum so that students, this is focused on high school students, can get earn certificates. It's free. The Skills Center up in Seattle will train the teachers that will then teach those classes. They are looking to train 500 people a week for these high-paying, high-tech jobs. So there's other tracks there besides the traditional college track. And so yesterday when I went up to Amazon, I brought with me Krista Linden, who's the executive director of Step by Step, a really beloved nonprofit in our community. Because in addition, I hear a lot of stuff on workforce development and college tracks, and I'm the ranking member on college and workforce development. But in my mind, whenever I see these programs for high school students, I'm always thinking about the girls like me that were teen moms. I got pregnant in high school when I was 16, and for me, that's a a special population that I think is really worth investing in, because when you can invest in a young mom and change the trajectory of their life and their child's life, you can change them for generations to come. So it's great that we have this program for high school students, but I think about those young women that weren't successful students. They dropped out, they got pregnant at school, they got on the wrong track, and to get them looped back into career tracks that will be high paying and get them participating in our workforce as well. So exciting stuff going on there with Amazon.
With that, we'll do one more. Go ahead.
Look like you guys talking about workforce development, Tamar Jackson, Workforce Central. Bruce knows my wish about this. Thank you guys for the next year project that we're doing here. Working young adults in school districts 16 to 24 to get those careers. The one thing I think we're talking about the bottleneck of the youth getting into the workforce now. And one of the things that we really looked at is how organizations are going about getting their younger workforce with the requirements of need. When they go from a bachelor's degree plus 5 years of experience, it's really saying that you want your workforce to be 30 years old before they can actually come in. So when we're talking about lived wages and how we're getting a younger workforce, the way systematically it's set up now, it doesn't exist. Because we're having kids say, hey, you can go do this great job, but you have to be 32 and invested to get it. And by the time you get there, it doesn't even exist anymore because you graduated, you got a degree, and you graduated at 24 with that degree. You took a year to get the job that you're trying to get into. You settled for a lower wage job just to get into the career field. You stuck around for 3 years just to get to the experience that you're asked to have on that resume. And by the time you get there, you're 32 years old. And, hey, can I apply for that job now? It doesn't exist anymore. And so it's a returning cycle over and over. So one of those things with a lot of business owners in this room right now, you have to really ask yourself the essential skill sets that you need and ask yourself, can they be trained inside your organization at a younger age if you're wanting that younger workforce to be with you and invest in your organization as well to help them at the very beginning and not getting what your organization wants, but the essential skills that your organization needs to move forward in our community.
Excellent.
In other words, going back to investing into the workforce, training them. So you have to be able to invest that time to train them to get them to where you want them to go. And I think a lot of employers have gotten away from that focus of that traditional growth and development that is required in order for you to build the workforce you want to see.
Excellent comments.
Just a little bit of advice. When you, in the legislative process, when you make a statement, you have to finish by saying, would you agree?
So, ladies and gentlemen, wouldn't you agree? So I want to thank everybody for coming out and just close my part out in saying that these folks and the other elected officials in the room, these are really tough jobs. I don't want you to underestimate when you get on that side of the table what the kind of work and the pressure that you get under. And we are really, really grateful in East Pierce County to have very high quality, an A team of legislators and county council members and county executives. So can I get a big round of applause for this part of the panel?
Yeah, great allies. We're very fortunate. I also, again, want to thank the Quorums again for hosting us. Also, and just a little note for all of you. Our caterer, again, due to supply chain issues, had to cancel on us last minute. And so I want everyone to thank River's Edge out at Sumner for kind of coming in and swooping in and saving the day to provide you some great burritos as we step in. Also, Lori Waltier, hey, the reason we had Representative Robertson here and everybody mic'd up well and sounding great is because of her. So thank you, Lori Waltier. All right, I'd like to, certainly go grab some refreshments, a burrito on your way. It's fine to hang a few minutes, I assume, to speak to some of your legislators before they have to scoot away. I would like to get a really quick group picture, though, with our facilitators and the panel right where you're at, and then bring the quorums up as well. All right, thank you all for being here. Appreciate it.